Hello. Wow, okay, we're on live right now. Good morning. Let's continue to read this book, An Object Lesson in South America. At first, it may seem incongruous. Incongruous. 不合适. A building incongruous with surroundings that the Morgan Group would provide funding for both Kerensky and Lenin. These men may have both been socialist revolutionaries, but they were miles apart in their plans for the future and, in fact, were bitter competitors for control of the new government. But the tactic 策略 of finding both sides in a political contest by then had been refined, refine 提炼改进 refined by members of the Round Table into a fine art, a stunning 打晕震惊 stunning example of this occurred in South America during the outset of Boer War. In 1899, the British and Dutch had been active in the seminal South Africa for decades. The Dutch had developed the provinces of Transvaal and the Orange Free State, while the British had colonized such areas as Rhodesia, Cape of Hope, Basutoland, Swaziland, and Bechuanaland. Conflict was inevitable between these two groups of settlers whenever they found themselves in competition for the resources of the same territory. But it was the discovery of gold in the whitewater area of the Transvaal that provided the motive for war. Politically, the Transvaal was in the hands of Boers, who were the descendants of Dutch settlers. Descendant of Dutch settlers. But after the discovery of gold in that area, the mine fields had been developed primarily by the British and became solidly under their control. Not surprisingly, one of the largest players in that game was Cecil Rhodes, who already had monopolized the diamond fields under British control to the south. Historian Henry Pick tells us, with the discovery of gold in the Tanzania, Rhodes' greed became passionate. His hatred of 仇恨 hatred. Morgan Cosper, the Afrikaner president of the Tanzania, knew no limits He was bitterly opposite to Krog's independent Chesapeake and viewed this as the main obstacle, the main obstacle to his efforts to sweep all Southern Africa under British rule. ，OK，您是英语老师，帮我翻译。他对总统到了无语，他强烈反对德兰士瓦治安委主要障碍 Transvaal Roads Program Africa. In 1895, Rhodes set in motion a plan to overthrow Krog's government by organizing an uprising 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 up uprising 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 起义 among the British inhabitants in Johannesburg. The uprising was financed by himself and was to be led by his brother Frank and other loyal supporters. This was to be followed by a military invasion of the Transvaal by British troops from Bertrand and Rhodesia, led by Sir Leader Jameson. The uprising fizzled and ended in Jameson's arrest and public disgrace. But Rhodes was determined to have the Chesapeake and began immediately to prepare a second, more patient plot. Through Rhodes's influence, Lord Alfred Minor was appointed as the British High Commissioner of South Africa in London. Lord Usher, another member of the Secret Society, became the chief political advisor to King Edward and was in daily contact with him throughout this period. That took care of the British side of the contest. With regard to the Boer side, Professor Quigley tells the amazing story by a process whose details are still obscure. obscure, 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 obscure. A brilliant young graduate of Cambridge, James Matz, who had been a vigorous supporter of Rhodes and acted as his agent in Kimberley, South Africa's largest diamond mine, as late as 1895, and who was one of the most important members of Rhodes Minor Group in the period of went to the Chesapeake and by violent anti-British agitation. Agitation agitation became state secretary of that country and the chief political advisor to President Kroger. Milner made provocative troop movements on the Boer frontier in spite of the vigorous protests of his commanding general in South Africa, who had to be removed, and finally war was precipitated pre, precipitated 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 precipitate precipitant precipitate when Smuts drew an ultimatum insisting that the British troop movement cease, and when this was rejected by Milner, and so, as a result of careful engineering by row-table numbers on both sides, one making outrageous demands and the other responding to those demands in pretended indignation. The war finally began with the British invasion in October 1899 after 1 or 2 years of fierce fighting. The Boers were forced to surrender and Mann administered the former republic as a military occupied territory. Round Table members, known to the public as Milner's kindergarten, were placed into all key government posts, and the goldfields were finally secured, placing bets on all horses. On the other side of the world, in New York City, the same tactic of playing both sides against each other was being applied with brilliant precision by Roundtable member J.P. Morgan. Professor Gregory tells, to Morgan, all political parties were simply organizations to be used, and the firm always was careful to keep a foot in all camps. Morgan himself, Dwight Morrow, and other partners were allied with Republicans. Rashid was allied with the Democrats. Grayson Murphy was allied with the extreme right, and Thomas W. Ament was allied with the left. Although it is true that Thomas Lamert was a father of Collis Lamert, a well-known communist, and was held widely regarded as a man of leftist persuasions. It must also be remembered that he felt equally at home among the fascists and, in fact, served as the unofficial business consultant for Mussolini in the 1920s. At the same time that Morgan was founding pro-Bolshevik groups, he founded what was probably the most virulent anti-Bolshevik, virulent, virulent, virulent organization ever to exist in Africa. It was called United Americans and it set about to frighten everyone into believing that a red mob was at that very moment poised to capture New York City. It issued shocking reports warning about a pending financial collapse, widespread starvation, and desperate, desperate working class being maneuvered into accepting communist slogans ret- and rhetoric at a last resort. Ironically, 讽刺的是 ironically, the officers of this organization was Alan Walker's of the Guarantee Trust Company, which was then acting as the sovereign's fiscal agent in the US. Daniel Whelan, president of the Baltimore Oriole Ranch, which was then active in the development of several railways. At Westinghouse of the Westinghouse Air Brake Company, which was then operating a major plant in Russia, and Ottoham Cullen Company, which was one of the principal finance backers of the fledgling Soviet regime. Even inside Russia itself, the Round Table was spreading its bets. In addition to the funding previously mentioned, which was given to the Bolsheviks and to the opponents, the Mensheviks. Morgan also financed the military forces of Admiral Kolchak, who was fighting against the Bolsheviks in Siberia. Not surprisingly, Kolchak was received funding from a consortium of British financiers, including Alfred Milner. It is commonly stated that the original intent of the Red Cross mission to Moscow was to prevent the Russian government from making a separate peace with Germany, which would release German troops to fight against England and France. According to that version of the story, which portrays the actors of the patriots patriots merely doing what was best for the war effort. The first goal was to support the Tsar. Then, when the Tsar was overthrown, they supported the Mensheviks because they had pledged to stay in the war. When the Mensheviks were ousted, they continued to support the Bolsheviks in order to gain sufficient influence to convince them not to give aid to Germany. It took a great deal of the gallipity, gullibility to swallow that lie. And far more plausible reading is that the Morgan interests were merely doing what they had always done, placing bets on all horses so that no matter which one crossed the finish line, the winner would be obligated them. obligate to the British agents to the round table. The best enemy money can buy. Okay. American agent. British agent. Ultra-Bolsheviks had seized the power in Russia. Sir George Buchanan was recalled as the British ambassador and replaced by a member of Manners Kindergarten, a young man by the name of Bertrand Lockhart. In his book, British Agent, Lockhart describes the circumstance of his assignment. Circumstance. Speaking of the meeting with Prime Minister Lloyd George, he wrote, I saw that his own mind was made up. He had been greatly impressed, as Lord Milner told me afterwards, by an interview with Colonel Thompson of the American Red Cross, who had just returned from Russia and who had denounced in blunt language the folly of the Allies in not opening up negotiations with the Bolsheviks. 3 days later, all my doubts were put at rest. I was to go to Russia as head of a special mission to establish unofficial relations with the Bolsheviks. I had been selected for this Russian mission not by the Foreign Secretary, but by the War Cabinet, actually by Lord Milner and Mr. Lloyd George. Lord Milner I saw almost daily. 5 days before my departure, I dinnered alone with him at Brooks. He was in his most inspiring mood. He talked to me with a charming frankness about the war, about the future of England, about his own career, and about the opportunities of youth. He was too very far from being the jingle and the conservative reactionary whom popular opinion at one time represented him to be. On the contrary, many of his views on society were startling modern. He believed in the highly organized states in which services, efficiency, and hard work were more important than titles or money bags.我看出他已经下定了决心，正如爵士他深受汤姆森上校刚从温和他直言不讳地谴责了盟军没有与波士顿展开谈判的愚蠢。3天后，我将作为特别使团负责人前往俄罗斯，与布尔什维克建立非官方关系。我被选不是由外交大臣，而是由战时内阁，实际上米尔纳爵士选定。我几乎每天都见到米尔纳爵士。在我出发前5天，我都自己一人在公寓晚餐，他情绪高涨，极具感染力。他以迷人的坦率，如果谈论战争、英国的未来、他自己的职业生涯以及年轻人的机会。他也非一度被大众舆论描绘成了那种 沙文主义者或高指派分子。相反，他对社会的很多看法令人惊讶的具有代表性。他信奉高组织化的国家，在这个国家里，服务效率和努力工作比头衔和金钱更重要。War Cabinet, Mr. Brooks, JEKYLL, Conversation Reactionary, Conservative, Reactionary。作者被选牌建立关系，没有就是方解他说到汤姆斯上校关于说这段文字什么叫American Agent of the Round Table。OK， 哇操，今天有点累，不读了，就这样吧。就到这里吧，就到这里吧。289 281。Okay, I think that's all. Okay, thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.